can still hear the airstrike, said this man. I keep hearing it, and I can't sleep.
Tonight, breaking news, dozens of people killed in Myanmar, tensions at an all-time high. As we go to air, over 500 confirmed dead, including children, and there's now mounting pressure on international governments to act. It's Sunday, the 4th of April. You're watching 6 News also tonight.
He said, can I pray with you?
George Floyd's girlfriend breaks down in tears as the trial of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Shovin continues, with never-before-seen body cam vision now released amid ongoing concerns about more violence across America. And it is Easter Sunday today, with households waking at the crack of dawn, children scouring backyards for hidden treats, while others headed to church. We'll have a live report coming up a little later. A very good evening to you though. Happy Easter everyone. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday evening. Let's begin with some more serious breaking news though. And Myanmar has reached flashpoint tonight with a dramatic escalation in violence from the military. The death toll has surpassed 530. Included in that number are 43 children. A spate of recent airstrikes has now rendered around 10,000 people refugees and killed more than a dozen others. As the situation worsens, there's now mounting pressure on international governments to act. Chief reporter Connor Aforke has the very latest.
Robbed of their freedom, their voice, their country. This is the only way the people of Myanmar can fight back. They're clapping, shouting, banging pots and pans instead of risking their lives protesting on the streets, where water cannons are no longer the military's weapon of choice. This woman cries for her 13-year-old son, who was killed in protests weeks ago. Flowers adorn this gravestone of stacked bricks as mourners pray, grieve. At least 535 people in total have suffered a similar fate. 43 of those are children, the youngest aged 6, according to rights group Save the Children. A rapidly escalating death toll as junta forces ramp up their offensive. 3 people have been confirmed dead, 10,000 estimated to be displaced after the military government targeted ethnic Karen rebels in a series of airstrikes near the Thailand border last Saturday. This graphic footage showing the aftermath of a separate military airstrike at a gold mine. 11 people were killed. There are bodies, faceless bodies, dismembered bodies, obliterated bodies, all dripping in blood.
I can still hear the airstrike, said this man. I keep hearing it, and I can't sleep.
He's among the thousands forced to seek refuge in jungles, caves, neighbouring Thailand, where they were denied entry because Thai authorities fear an influx of refugees. World leaders have heaped condemnation and sanctions on the Myanmar military government. The UN Special Envoy on Myanmar has warned a civil war, a bloodbath, is imminent, calling on the UN Security Council to consider significant action. As the world is left wondering, how is this happening? The people of Myanmar feel forgotten.
ကျွန်တော်တို့ဘဝကိုဘယ်သူမှမကယ်နိုင်တော့ဘူးလားဗျာကျွန်တော်တို့ဘဝတကယ်ဟိုဒီတိုင်းသူတို့ပြစ်တတ်တာပဲကျွန်တော်တို့ခံနေရမှာလားဒီနေ့ဗျာမဆိုင်များကျွန်တော်အကိုတယောက်ခေါင်းဝင်းမှန်နေဗျာစနိုက်ပါနဲ့ချိန်ပြီးထုသွားတာဗျာဒီကောလေးမိုင်ရတော့အကြီးနေဗျာဒီကောကျွန်တော်တို့ဘယ်သူမှကယ်မပေးတော့ဘူးလားဗျာ
It's terrible. It's absolutely outrageous. An awful lot of people have been killed totally unnecessarily.
In some positive news, in the past week, 600 people who were detained for protesting at the beginning of March have been released. 55 remain in prison, expecting to face criminal charges, as the military government promises a ceasefire, except, they say, for actions that disrupt government security and administration. Connor Alforque, 6 News.
And don't forget, if you'd like to know just how the Myanmar coup began and learn more about the country's history of military violence, head to our YouTube channel and don't forget to subscribe. You can see the full report there. And also, Connor will be back later in the bulletin talking about Easter, so a bit of a lighter subject. That's coming up a little later though. Meanwhile, the federal government has faced ongoing criticism over Australia's vaccine rollout, with it being described as a complete bungle. As we go to air tonight, over 670,000 vaccinations have been delivered. The Prime Minister Scott Morrison previously said 4 million should have been administered by now. A number of states have now openly criticised the federal government on social media. Others have labelled it a complete failure. It comes after a 44-year-old man was admitted to hospital in Victoria with blood clots several days after receiving the AstraZeneca vaccine. The Therapeutic Goods Administration has emphasised that there is still no proven link between the vaccine and the developments of those blood clots. Well, several weeks after Western Australia's election, 2 micro-parties are now set to join the crossbench of the state's upper house, despite receiving just a fraction of the primary vote. Sophia Mormon from the Legalised Marijuana Party has secured a seat in the southwest region, while the Daylight Saving Party's Wilson Tucker will represent the mining and pastoral region, despite receiving 2 and 0.2% of the primary vote respectively. Now, with the latter, Tucker literally got 98 votes. ABC election analyst Anthony Green wrote on Twitter that the situation was priceless and added that you can't get a better case of what's wrong with group voting tickets. You may have noticed that Green actually said the candidate doesn't live in the state. Not only that, he doesn't live in Australia. Right now, he is in Seattle, Washington. And as you can imagine, there are now plenty of calls for the voting system in WA to change. Australians could be banned from creating anonymous social media and dating profiles under radical new reforms being considered by the federal government. Under the proposal, anyone trying to create an account for platforms including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Tinder would have to submit an ID like a passport or driver's license in an attempt to reduce online bullying, harassment and stalking. It follows Rob McKnight, the co-host of the And Rob and Robbo show, launching a Change.org petition for Twitter to ban all fake accounts, saying, quote, "How many more people have to kill themselves before we take this issue seriously?" What are your thoughts? Would you welcome a ban on anonymous accounts, and are you anonymous on social media? Let us know in the comment section below. Beauty YouTuber James Charles says he effed up by engaging in sexually explicit conversations with 2 teenage boys who he believed to be 18. In an apology video dubbed "Holding Myself Accountable," the 21-year-old influencer said that he was misled about the youngsters' ages, saying he was told that they were 18, believed them, engaged in flirty conversation, and then later found out that they were actually 16. Now, the video was posted on April Fool's Day. Charles did acknowledge that, but he confirmed it wasn't a prank, and he will also be taking a break from social media to, quote, further educate and reflect on himself about these topics. A strict national lockdown has been imposed on all of France as coronavirus cases continue to grow right across the country. In a televised address to the nation, President Emmanuel Macron said the measures would be in place for at least a month and warned that the country would, quote-unquote, lose control if they did not move now. The number of COVID-19 patients in ICU has surpassed 5,000 and daily infections are up as well. Now, that's the situation we're seeing across many parts of Europe. In Italy, Sicilian authorities have been accused of covering up rising coronavirus rates and deaths in an apparent attempt to make the situation look better than it actually is and to keep the region out of the so-called red zone. Sicily's top health official, Rigaro Razza, denied all wrongdoing but has since resigned. Dozens of British lawmakers have signalled their opposition to a vaccine passport that the government is right now considering when it lifts more lockdown restrictions. It's believed that trials of the so-called passports would begin within weeks during major sporting events, with PM Boris Johnson saying it would give businesses confidence. But we've now seen growing concern from opposition lawmakers and civil rights groups, including some in Johnson's own Conservative Party, who've labelled the proposal divisive and discriminatory. In the US, meanwhile, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has issued an executive order banning the use of vaccine passports in a move that was not unexpected. The trial of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin has been the central focus for many Americans this week, with new details still coming out about what happened to George Floyd last year. Floyd's girlfriend has broken down in tears inside the courtroom during one of several emotional scenes, as for the first time ever, the video of Derek Chauvin's body cam is released, showing his perspective. US correspondent Jackson Gosnell has the latest.
The trial for former officer Derek Shovin in Minneapolis is still underway and has been underway all week. Derek Shovin is the officer accused of the death of George Floyd, or at least being involved with it somehow. And all this week we heard from varying witnesses who gave their testimony about how they remember Floyd. Now, some of those who spoke were Floyd's former girlfriend, as well as the store owner who initially called for police, or the manager rather, after the $20 counterfeit bill was presented. We do know that it was very emotional, and the emotions still run high even to this day right now. The trial is set to continue. We don't yet know when it will be all finalized, but most people just telling news outlets that they hope that there's justice served in the case of Derek Chauvin, because they believe he is involved in George Floyd's death in a negative capacity. Meanwhile, the defendant's argument is that there were drugs potentially in George Floyd's system at the time of the arrest. I'll continue to monitor this story and bring you up to date. Reporting in the U.S., I'm Jackson Gosnell. Back to you.
And as the trial continues, there's ongoing fears about more violence like what we saw last year in the event of an acquittal. At least 15 million people across the US protested in the weeks following Floyd's death last year. At least 18 people died as a result of riots, mainly in Minneapolis. You're seeing that footage right now. But they're all seeing some people, including many business owners, fear could easily happen again depending on the verdict. And as we near the 1-year anniversary of Floyd's death, Fox News reports that around 40 Minneapolis police officers retired and 120 took a leave of absence last year following the protests and riots, which is nearly 20% of the police department's roughly 840 officers. To the UK now, and a London police officer has been convicted of being a member of a banned neo-Nazi group. 22-year-old Benjamin Hanman is the first British police officer to be convicted of a terrorism offence after joining the neo-Nazi group National Action in 2016, then becoming a police officer in 2018. Hanman has been found guilty of membership in an outlawed organisation, as well as 2 counts of fraud by false representation and 2 counts of possession of information likely to be of use to a terrorist, according to authorities. His conviction comes amid concerns about rising infiltration of right-wing groups in police officers, not just in the UK, but also in the US and Germany, amid ongoing protests about police behaviour. A geologist has been beaten up by what he described as the angriest octopus while swimming on holidays at a Western Australia beach. Lance Carlson took to Instagram to share his bizarre experience of being attacked by the octopus in Dunsborough earlier this month. You can see the creature coming after him again and again before whipping his neck and upper back. He told 7 News that the tentacles left stinging red welts on his skin, which only eased after he poured cola on them. You heard that right. Carlson later went back into the water alone, where the octopus found him again and struck him again. And that is simply why I try to avoid going into the water too deep at the beach. Don't want to get stung there. That must hurt. Some incredible video coming out of the US now. Meanwhile, it shows a deer crashing through the front windshield of a school bus window and landing on a sleeping student in Virginia. The student did not appear to realise what happened somehow, and the bus driver quickly opened the door so the deer could exit the vehicle. Officials say no one, including the deer, was injured, and all students managed to make it to school safely. Some extraordinary circumstances there. Well, it is Easter Sunday, excuse the pun. And if you don't like that pun, you may want to skip this next story, because millions of households across the country woke at the crack of dawn today with children scouring backyards for hidden Easter treats. Others headed to church, where this year prayers were granted and the pews were full. Let's bring in Chief Reporter Connor Forgo live for us from Brisbane tonight. Connor, how else did Australians mark this exciting Easter long weekend?
Yeah, that's right. I'm in Brisbane this evening, where Easter almost didn't happen. Many anticipated the lockdown would be extended until Tuesday, but large testing volumes, 34,000 tests in 24 hours, and low cases of community transmission saw the lockdown end just 67 hours after it began. That gave businesses a very short window to reopen, and also holiday makers as well. We saw these large lines of traffic heading up to the Sunshine and Gold Coasts. The virus clearly hasn't deterred people from getting out and making the most of the Easter long weekend. Easter Sunday celebrations are today in full swing. We've seen church services and egg hunts with a number of people on the beach, a considerably large number of people, where they're heading outdoors with no masks because it is outdoors and lunching on seafood. There have also been messages of hope from religious leaders across the country. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
Last year we stayed at home. No church gatherings, as extreme social distancing kept us apart. What a joy it is to be close to one another this Easter.
The past year has been a tough one, and I particularly want to thank Australians for the great spirit that they have shown one to each other. And wherever you are, let's keep looking out for each other, Australia. Happy Easter.
I'm joined now by two very avid egg hunters, Josie and Jackson, who are digging into these eggs. How are they?
Awesome. Great.
That's cool. What's your favourite part about Easter time?
Finding the eggs and eating them. Awesome. Obvious. Same.
Oh, that's great. So lots of excitement here at Easter time.
Alright, some excellent reporting there, Connor. No, that's bad. That's really bad, Connor. 4K. Live for us tonight, thank you. Surely at least one of these puns has been good, or not. Let us know in the comments, #6NewsAU. Right now, though, let's head to Perth, where Ivan and Sarah have got a sneak peek of what's coming up tonight on WAMN News.
Thanks, Leo. Coming on WAMN News, losing Easter. We ask, is faith still part of Australian festivities?
Toy gun drama, a 4-hour siege in Applecross leads to loud bangs and arrests.
Think of the future. Unemployed youths advised to consider their options after Job Seeker and JobKeeper ends.
Unveiled WA's new Metronet C train in Yagan Square, plus Dr. Andrew Miller's comment. Join us after 8:30 East Coast time on the WAMN News Facebook page.
Alright, thanks to both Ivan and Sarah there. Now to tomorrow's forecast right across the country for tomorrow. Brisbane showers, a top of 23, 24 in Sydney, 25 and cloudy in the nation's capital, 19 in Melbourne, 20 in Hobart, 27 in Adelaide, 31 in Alice Springs, 29 in Perth, and in Darwin, heavy rain, a top of 31. And that is 6 News for this very busy Easter Sunday. You can stay up to date with the latest headlines by heading to our website at 6newsau.com and by following us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Elite. Just search 6 News AU to find us. I'm Leonardo Puglisi. Thanks for your company. Good night.